Lair of the Lansing Leprechauns, chapters 16 through 18. Chapter 16. Cornell and I looked at each other. I could see the fear in his eyes, and I knew he could sense my growing terror. What did the leprechaun mean when he said we weren't going anywhere, I wondered. Were we his prisoners? Should we try to run and get away? Would we be able to escape? To where? But there was something else the tiny man had said that bothered me. I had picked up on it when he'd first spoken the words, but now it was weighing heavier on my mind. When Cornell had asked where we were, the leprechaun had responded, "You're safe. For now." For now? What did that mean, I wondered, but I wasn't sure if I really wanted to know after all. Cornell spoke. Okay, he said. Like, I'm really confused right now. I'm not sure if we should run away from you or call the cops or what. The leprechaun looked at Cornell and then at me. "It won't do any good to run away," he replied. "And who is Cops? How would you call him?" "Cops isn't a him," I said. Cornell meant the police. "Ah," said the leprechaun. "Authorities. I'm afraid there are no authorities around here. No, wait, that's not true. I am an authority around here. A different type of authority, but I guess you could say I am one." Again, I looked at my surroundings, marveled, and a bit horrified by what I was seeing. "I wouldn't have brought you here if we didn't need your help," the leprechaun continued. "We need someone who looks like you, like normal humans, to help us stop the alien invaders." "Alien invaders?" Cornell said, raising one eyebrow in a comical display of disbelief. "What's an alien invader?" "Truly terrible, terrible creatures," the small man continued. "They've invaded your planet, but no one knows it. None of you humans, anyway." "Alien invaders?" Cornell repeated. He was in disbelief. So was I, but I was also really interested in what the leprechaun was saying. The little man nodded. "That's right," he said. "Actually, they arrived here a few years ago. We've been hiding from them, trying to figure out what they want, what they're up to. Now we know, and it's not good. But we have a chance to stop them once and for all. However, we don't need the help of a human. Someone the alien invaders... However, we need the help of a human. Someone the alien invaders wouldn't suspect." "But wait a minute," I said. Are you like a leprechaun?" The small man smiled and beamed, actually. "You might call us that," he said, bowing slightly. "Us?" I asked. "Oh, yes," the leprechaun said. "There are thousands of us. Actually, we've been on your planet for many, many years, existing in our own dimension. Once in a while, we travel to your dimension and are seen by your kind. We understand you've made up stories about us." "Yeah, lots," Cornell said. "But I always thought leprechauns were supposed to come from Ireland." "Oh, that's where we were first spotted," the small man said. "I think that's where the stories all began. You humans have good imaginations, though, and none of what is said about us is true." "You mean like the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow?" I asked. The leprechaun shook his head. "Sorry," he replied. "Not true." "Can you do magic?" Cornell asked. The leprechaun frowned. "Well, what would you call magic is actually normal in our world." "Like the exploding coin in the gold dust?" I asked. "Perfectly normal," came his reply. "We use that to help others travel between worlds. Of course, that's very rare. I think the last time I did that was, probably a couple 100 years ago." Cornell and I looked at each other with raised eyebrows. A couple of 100 years ago, I thought. For the first time in my life, I felt like I might have really gone crazy. I know that people joke about it all the time, including me. Often Cornell will come up with some wild idea or something, and I'll tell him that he's crazy or out of his mind or something like that. But when I say things like that, I don't really mean I think he's gone crazy. I'm only joking, just kidding around. However, as I stood before the strange small man while he spoke, telling us about alien invaders and traveling between different worlds, I had to wonder if I really had gone crazy. And our surroundings didn't help. I had no idea where we were. Moments before, we'd been in a tunnel in the ground. Now, it was as though we were on another planet, or at least somewhere else in the world. "So what's up with these alien invaders?" Cornell asked, "and why are you so afraid of them?" "I can tell you all about them," the leprechaun said, "but it's going to have to wait. They're coming." The small man nodded, indicating that there was something behind us. Cornell and I turned, staring in disbelief at what could only be some sort of spacecraft, high in the sky in the distance. It was triangular in shape, but other than that, I couldn't make out the other features because it was so far away. "What is that?" I asked. "That," the little man replied, "is called a sweeper craft. It's full of alien invaders. They're hunting for us." "Well, Cornell said nervously, "shouldn't we do something? Shouldn't we hide?" The little leprechaun nodded. "That would be a very good idea." And that's when the explosion hit, knocking me and Cornell off our feet and sending us tumbling through the air. Chapter 17. I opened my eyes. I was on my back, gasping for air. The sudden explosion had knocked the wind from my lungs, and I was gulping gallons of air. And I was confused. Although I didn't think I'd been knocked unconscious, the blast had seemed to jolt me to another reality, a different place. For a moment, I wondered if I had traveled to yet another dimension. But memories flooded back, finding the hole in the ground and discovering the tunnel, the leprechaun, the gold dust covering me and Cornell and Bentley. Bentley! The blast had knocked the leash from my hand. I leapt to my feet and looked around. My heart was filled with relief when I saw Bentley nearby. His fur was splotched with dust and dirt, but he was wagging his tail as if nothing had happened. He bounded up to me, happy as ever, dragging his leash. I grabbed it quickly and held tight. A few feet away, Cornell was also getting to his feet. He was scuffed and grimy, but he was okay. His black hair was caked with sand. But in the distance, the spacecraft, the alien invaders. "They're firing at us," the leprechaun said. "They know we're here. Follow me." "Can't we just go back to our world?" I asked frantically. The leprechaun shook his head. "They've seen us, so they'll know. They'll follow us. Then things will be even worse. We've got to hide from them. Come on." I looked around, but I had no idea where we were going to hide. We were no longer underground, of course, and there were no buildings, no structures, no place to hide. There were large clusters of trees not far away, but they wouldn't provide much cover for safety when the sweeper craft approached. The leprechaun spun and began to run toward the trees. "Come on, Bentley," I said to my dog. He looked at me curiously, but when I tugged at his leash and began to run, he followed. Cornell, too, began to run, and the three of us chased after the little man who was running toward the nearest stand of trees. I was so confused. I had so many questions, so many things I wanted to know, but I knew it would have to wait. We had bigger things to worry about, like the alien invaders. We needed to get out of danger first. Then hopefully I could ask questions and get some answers. Another explosion rocked the air. This one was a bit farther away, but I still felt the powerful blast as smoke and dust and debris roiled up into the sky. If it had been closer, we would have been blown to bits. And I was also wondering where the leprechaun was taking us. There was only tall grass as far as I could see. No mountains, no hills, nothing. Trees, yes, but they weren't going to provide much cover. I needn't have worried. The small man stopped at a very large tree, and he turned toward us. "Hurry," he said, waving at us with his tiny arm. "Follow me." And he disappeared. Chapter 18. The leprechaun vanished, and I was immediately stricken with panic. Where did he go? How did he do that? He didn't just leave us here, did he? No, of course not. He said, "Follow me," the second before he'd vanished. He wanted us to follow him. Where? When I reached the tree, I found the answer. At the base of the trunk was a wide split where a pair of massive roots plunged into the earth. Between the two was a dark triangular opening leading into the ground. It was plenty wide enough for the tiny man to slip through. But Cornell and I would have to do some wiggling. "Go," Cornell ordered. "I'll be right behind you." Bentley was at my side, too. His head was cocked to the side, his ears were up, and he was looking curiously into the dark opening. Not far away, a large clump of trees exploded in a burst of smoke and a shower of sparks and flames. The ground trembled. Branches and limbs flew into the air and landed all around us. The alien invaders were getting closer. The spacecraft was flying lower to the ground, heading in our direction. "Go," Cornell ordered again, his voice rising to a shrill wail. "If we don't hide, we'll be blown into a billion pieces." I dropped to my knees and then swung my feet into the dark crevice. Alarmed, Bentley drew near, nuzzling my neck as I lowered myself down. "It's okay, boy," I said. My feet touched the solid ground and I slipped deeper into the wide split. Tugging Bentley's leash, I coaxed him in. He was reluctant and he tried to pull back. "No," I ordered. "Come." An explosion, this one even closer than the last one, rang in my ears and quaked to the ground. Bentley made up his mind that, indeed, it might be better underground. He leapt into the crevice, and I pulled him down into the darkness, into what was only a dirty cavern with gritty roots above and soft earth beneath my feet. Above, Cornell was scrambling into the hole. I let go of Bentley's collar and grasped Cornell's shoes, pulling him. "Ouch," he said, as he tumbled through and dropped to the ground near me. "Sorry," I said. "You okay?" "Sure," Cornell replied, "but where did that little dude go?" "He must be around here somewhere," I replied. "Little dude," Cornell called out. "Where did you go, little dude?" I almost laughed. For whatever reason, I found it hilarious that here we were, in a small cavern beneath a tree, hiding from an alien spacecraft, looking for a tiny human that my friend Cornell called Little Dude. "This way," we heard the tiny man reply. His voice was distant and muffled. There was no echo. "What way?" I shouted back. "We can't see." "Follow my voice," the tiny man replied. "I'm not far." Keep talking, Cornell said. The leprechaun continued speaking, urging us along. We found that we could stand, but not fully upright. Above us were thousands of tentacles, roots from various shrubs, bushes, and trees growing in the ground above our heads. It felt very strange to be walking beneath trees and shrubs that grew above the ground. If my mom knew what I was doing right now, she'd have a seizure, Cornell said. Mine too, I replied. We have to figure this out and get home. Sooner or later, if I don't come home, Mom is going to come looking for me. Then she'll get blasted by that spaceship, Cornell said. It was an awful thought, but then I realized it wouldn't happen. No, I said, remember, we're in some sort of different place, some different dimension. We're not even in the real world anymore. So if we're not in our world, Cornell said, then where in the world are we? We were about to get our answer.